We are back with a special today. I want to say a big hello to all our bonding community who are joining us. We're currently streaming across multiple platforms. So wherever you're watching us, whether it be YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or X, thank you for joining in. Today, we are joined by our CEO, Ignacio, by our head of product, Spencer, and by a very special guest, who is Alejandro from Space and Tokens. Alejandro, I'd love you to maybe just do a quick introduction to yourself, and a bit about Space and Tokens as well, because we'll be diving into all things tokenomics today, but would love you to just give us a quick intro, and then we'll dive into today's AMA.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. Basically, what we do at the Space and Token, it is to analyze token economies and make sure that they are robust and self-sustainable over time through simulation, right? So what we do is quantitative analysis of a token economy of a project to understand if all the pieces that we will have in the project make sense, and try to find possible failure scenarios and fix them before it is too late, and also make sure that what we have in our heads, it is actually feasible, right?
Amazing. Well, Alejandro, we'll definitely be diving more into your expertise later on in this AMA. But I'd love to maybe just start with the core thing we're trying to expand on today, which is we've released our tokenomics version 2, released this a few weeks ago, seeded it to the community, let everyone sit with it, read through, and we know we're going to get questions. So if you do have a question, pop it in the chat. We'd love to answer that at the end if we have time. But we did do an update from version 1 to version 2 of our tokenomics. And Ignacio, I'd love to come to you first. Why did we feel the need to update our tokenomics? What's new? And maybe just paint a bit of the journey that we've been on as a company, to kind of bring us to this point where we felt like we needed to actually update our tokenomics.
In simple terms, the tokenomics have had to evolve along with the evolution and of the vision for Bondex. When we started, the idea was a Web3 LinkedIn killer. By having a product in terms of our mobile app and our web job portal in the wild, so to say, with a lot of traction, corporate users, millions of users on our mobile app, we've done a lot of learning. And also the entire crypto industry has evolved. Our thesis has evolved because I no longer believe that displacing Web to social or professional networks is the way to go. In fact, what we should be doing is using blockchain for its strengths, transparency, trust, and aggregate and bundle the things that we already use, and using blockchain as a trust layer to navigate the internet in a more transparent way, essentially, in a more trusted and transparent way. And the reason is that we're all struggling with noise and really what is true, who to trust, how do I trust. It's becoming so overwhelming, the amount of data that we're having, and it's only going to get worse with AI and the advent of AI agents, that we really need to get a signal through the noise, a trusted kind of source that we know how to navigate the internet with. And that's what we're building here at Bondex, and we're calling it a social economic network, aggregation, bridging, and trust at its core. And the tokenomics have evolved to reflect the utility into the products and services that we're building to execute that vision, and also to adapt to market conditions and reward all the stakeholders at Bondex who have waited a long time as we've been building this incredible company.
Yeah, awesome. And I think it's a really good point, because we obviously released the white paper update maybe like 3 months ago now, 4 months ago. And I felt like there's a lot of holes that needed to be filled and addressed with the tokenomics as well, as to how are you even going to build this social economic network. So definitely see the need there. I'd love you to maybe walk through a bit of a TLDR. What is new? As someone who has maybe traveled with Bondex for a while, a lot of our community have been following our progress for a while, what would you kind of want to call out as some of the big updates that we've done in this version of the tokenomics? And what do you think is kind of the parts that are exciting yourself?
So I'm going to take it also one step back into also what are the most exciting product releases that we've done, and those go along with the new tokenomics, right? So one is our reputation score. We've been able to, through attestations, which is a bridge between Web 2 and Web 3 data, enable a reputation score that aggregates your verifications or validated credentials across different categories. So that is basically proof of humanity, professional, like your LinkedIn or profile or your resume, then your wallet activity, so you're basically your Web3 persona or reputation there, and then your Web2 socials or even messaging platforms like Telegram. All of that aggregated to give you a reputation score. And all of that is reflected in our Web 2.5 profiles we've just released, which is the premier universal profile to be used in the Web3 space, because it not only displays your professional identity, but it also has those verifications to go along with it. Those are the two of the major upgrades that we've released recently, and that goes along with the new tokenomics. As we ramp up towards TGE, we've made a lot of changes, but just to hit on the major ones is we've supercharged airdrop and created faster vesting for everyone to reward everyone's patience. Good things take time, but we understand that everyone's been here and cheering us on for a long time, and we want to reward them. So we have about 67% increase in immediate community rewards. Airdrop Season 2 is 50% bigger than planned. We've increased the total allocation, and we've accelerated the vesting from 20 months to 12 months. Those are some of the biggest, I think, in terms of on the reward side of things. We've also expanded utility a lot. So the core ones are, what the Bondex token is going to enable and verify is governance participation. It's going to boost your profile visibility. It's going to enable, again, those applications and referrals when it comes to jobs, but also it's going to enable network staking and arbitration. And then obviously it's all connected to that smarter reputation system. Oh, we can't hear you, Paul.
Classic. I was on mute. How many times does that happen in a meeting? It's ridiculous. That's really cool. Some really big updates. I know that a lot of work's gone into the into some of those tokenomic updates, especially into testing them. Alejandro, I'd love to kind of come to you at this point and just kind of ask, what do you see as kind of best in class tokenomics? You see, we're very focused on Bondex here, but you see a lot of projects looking at tokenomics. You see a lot of different companies approaching it in different ways. What do you see the patterns in terms of the best in class tokenomics?
So as a space on tokens, what we have is a really fundamentalist approach of the token economy. And what we have seen in all the projects that we have worked with is that the tokenomics are the ones that generate enough value and capture enough value towards the community, right? So people tend to think on tokenomics as an isolated part of a project, but that's not the reality. This is just another layer of a startup, of a network, of a project, right? So we think on a startup, on what makes a good startup or bad startup is the one that is able to generate value, is able to generate demand and be sustainable by itself, right? So with the tokenomics, it's the same thing. We need to generate a product that generates demand and be able to capture part of that demand with the token, right? If we are able to do that in a sustainable way, then our tokenomics are going to be top class versus what we are seeing in the markets, right? This is obviously a balance as well between valuations, to have fair valuations according to the expectations that we have of growth, and also some sort of balance with the vesting schedule, right? As we will comment later on, the most fragile part of a project is the first 1 year or 2 years before we generate enough traction with our platform. So we need that balance. But it all comes to, it is all based on a fundamental approach of generating enough buying pressure, organically speaking, and not taking into account speculation at all. We don't do that in our simulations. And making sure that this organic buying pressure, it is enough to keep up with the promises that we have made to everybody.
Awesome. Okay, great. That's really good context. So I think now what I'd love to do is actually dive into our own tokenomics. So for any users who haven't seen this, this is our tokenomics. It looks a lot nicer than just a PDF that we used to have. And you can go in here and you can dive in. I think a lot of people tend to jump straight to see, okay, what's the updated tokenomic plan? But we've got so many new sections here, including, which we actually want to walk through on this call. And I think one of the big ones that we've been working hard on is kind of Bondex reputation, Bondex points, bond points and BDXN. And maybe let's just start here, Spencer, around how does product work here? Where do you see, what's the impact here around this part of our tokenomics?
Yeah, perfect. I'll talk, in terms of, I guess we have bond points and then the BDXN token that's going to get released. So if I talk about how they're kind of similar and different. So with bond points are our off-chain points in the ecosystem. So we can think of those as a premium currency. So you earn bond points by completing various tasks successfully and by doing our daily boost, which you can do every 24 hours in the app. So bond points are really used as a kind of what we call a bonding mechanism within the ecosystem. So actions such as making referrals, boosting the visibility of your job applications require bond points. And for us, what that is a signal of your intent and also reducing the noise in the ecosystem. So if you have to put up bond points to make a referral, then presumably the quality of that referral is going to be higher because you are kind of putting your bond points at stake. When it comes to the BDXN token, so this is the on-chain token that serves as the main vehicle for value accrual and governance across the Bondex network. So, BDXN is used to reward valuable Bondex users through airdrops and other mechanisms. And then holding and staking BDXN grants you the ability to participate in governance decisions and influence the future direction of the Bondex network. So really what it means for our users is, by actively engaging and participating in the ecosystem, they earn bond points, which can help with their reputation and engagement with the community. And then really holding BDXN not only gives people the potential for financial value, but also gives them a voice in the network. And that really aligns with our vision of a user-owned platform. The other part there that Ignacio touched on a little bit was the reputation system. And so our Bondex reputation is really measured to showcase your credibility and expertise and activity across the ecosystem. So, it's a score. So it's a Bondex reputation score that you're given based on verifications that you do across, identity, professional, blockchain, and social. So it's really this blend, which we've seen for the first time, of this blend of kind of your engagement across Web 2 and Web 3, which we really think provide this, holistic part of your profile. Within the reputation, we have reputation levels. So the very first level is what we call contributor. And this is like, you have limited verifications done. It's just your initial participation. Next up is trusted. So trusted is really kind of one of the key levels where, at this point you would have had to do a identity verification and then gain some other verifications across some of those other categories. And when you reach this is what allows you to mint your Bondex ID, which for a limited time remains free for users to be able to mint. But that becomes your kind of Bondex, your Bondex ID that is going to be usable across dApps in the future. With the reputation levels, the highest level is elite. And that just represents that the users completed, an extensive amount of the verifications on the platform and a high engagement within the community. And so why would users want to, achieve a high reputation score? Well, I think first off, we're going to be, increasing the visibility. So those users with higher reputation enhances those profiles across the network, making it easier for others to find you, whether that is companies looking for talent or recruiters looking for talent, or other people within the network looking to make connections across the network. It also offers enhanced earnings. So even at the moment, As soon as you reach trusted or elite level, you can actually earn a higher earning ratio of bond points. So that is already rewarding users who are, getting to this level immediately. So, and this is something that appears across your profile anytime it is viewed in terms of showing your reputation level. So it's something that is reinforced by the trust and credibility amongst peers in the network.
Awesome, Spencer. I probably should have had the actual app ready here. It's a bit more interesting than looking at the text, but really good. And we're really excited about the future of reputation and the potential that it unlocks to help people advance their careers, get connected to people, and really as a foundation layer to what we are building here, which is the world's biggest talent pool and the leading Web3 professional network. So thanks for sharing that. I think what I'd love to actually dive into now is a bit more about the bond points. So there's a lot of kind of actions that we've kind of outlined here, which are new around kind of what can bond points do, and what can, what in earning them can a user kind of expect to start using them for. Ignacio, I'd love to maybe just go a bit more high level here around the actual concept of bond points, why we use them, and some of the ways that you see bond points being used in the future. You're on. Oh, Ignacio, sorry, you're on mute there. Go for it again.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. I had to mute you because you were tapping away on the keyboard and it was coming through. So apologies.
The inspiration behind bond points are video games, just like in Roblox, essentially. And these video games have what they call premium currencies. This is an off-chain token, essentially, or a premium currency that you earn. And the idea is that you earn this currency that represents your reputation, and then you can spend your reputation to unlock economic opportunities, advance your career. That's the idea of our premium currency. Something that basically you're earning your reputation and then you're spending your reputation to unlock essentially positive actions that help your professional career. That's the idea or the high-level concept behind bond points. Eventually, It will also unlock a reputation system, like, for example, vouching, something that we're working on, maybe a little bit too early to touch on. But the idea is that you should be, as a user, the one monetizing your network, your Rolodex, your access to opportunities, vendors. Right now, we're doing lots of recommendations or putting our social capital to recommend someone, and that's not monetizable. However, these transactions and reputational exchanges that we're doing are highly valuable, and blockchain offers us an opportunity to actually put some rails to track, trace, and reward, basically.
Really good. And Spencer, if you just want to jump on that as well in terms of how bond points are currently used in the ecosystem and how you see them being used as well in line with what Ignacio shared.
Yeah, so right now, like I mentioned, there's a few ways that users can use their bond points. So when making a referral, so trying to win those referral bounties. So anytime a user makes a referral, they will use bond points in order to do that. The other thing would be when they boost their job applications. So users can use bond points to boost their job application. And what that does is make sure as it comes in for screening, either by the Bondex team or the client companies, that their application is actually prioritized and put at the top. So that's one of the key things. I think a lot of users, when they apply for jobs, they don't hear back from them. So by boosting their applications, this is one of the ways they can help ensure that they get feedback either from the company or from Bondex. And in the future, I think we have a lot of different things in terms of where we want to use bond points, or a combination of bond points or BDXN. So Ignacio touched on vouching, right, which is essentially making recommendations for another user in the network. So of course, today people can vouch for somebody, but we can think of that as having more weight or more trustability if somebody is also staking bond points or BDXN with that vouch, right? So the fact that people are willing to use the bond points that they have earned to actually make a recommendation for somebody else to either help them, grow their trust or actually get a job within the Bondex network, I think that represents, a stronger signal of making somebody a recommendation. Other things as we think about, peer-to-peer messaging within the network is using a combination of a user's reputation, if they want to reach out to somebody they're not connected with, like a cold outreach message, they may have to put up bond points in order to do so. And we can think of that as being, they stake their bond points when they want to make that outreach message, and if somebody accepts it or replies back, we can think of that as a successful outreach message, in which case those points can be rewarded back to the original user. So there's a lot of things that we want to do to reduce the what we see as a lot of spam potentially in current social networks, and creating a less noise in the network, and where people have signaled more clear intent of wanting to take an action, and we can also help reward that in the process.
Exactly, as Spencer says, I don't think we're struggling as a society. There's no, we have so many tools. We have too many tools and data now. It's about how to navigate them effectively. I think we're at the peak of the attention economy, and we need to go more towards a trust and authenticity economy. So the more meaningful interactions are, the more valuable exchanges can be done peer-to-peer when people exchange their time, money, skills. Doesn't matter. But for that, we need that base level or layer of trust first.
Really good, really good. I think the future of the economy, the Bondex economy is being built. I feel like when we dive into it and we dream more into it, it really opens up of like, man, there's so much we could do here, so much fun stuff. So thanks for sharing that, guys. I'd love to move on to the next section, which is a section that a lot of our CoinList investors will be looking at. A lot of our just people who are looking at the way the token works will be looking at, and it's the token allocation and the token vesting and unlocks. So users can find this right here on the page. So if you come to token allocations and vesting, and they can see a update here of the latest version of the tokenomics, some lovely new graphics that have been made to signal, okay, how will the circulating supply work, how the unlocks work, and a bit more about the a bit of a more detailed breakdown as to what's changed from version 1 to version 2 here. But before we kind of dive into that, I'd love to kind of really go more kind of top line in terms of with yourself here, Alejandro. A lot of companies are really like ours, when they're coming up to a TGE, they are really sensitive around unlocks, around vesting. Could you maybe just talk through in very simple terms why companies are looking at that with great care and great detail, and the type of approach that someone like Space and Tokens do, and what you've done with Bondex in terms of modeling and actually seeing, how does changing some of these vestings and these unlocks, how does it impact the token?
Yeah, of course. Actually, as I was commenting before, at the end, a token economy is finding a balance between all the demand that you are going to be generating with your product or with your values and different value propositions, and your valuations and your promises that you have made, right? The thing is that at the earliest stage of a project, when we don't have enough traction generated, enough users to generate all this organic buying pressure, this is the most well, as we have said before, the most fragile part of the project, right? And that's why most of the protocols out there, of all the economies out there, are kind of stressing over this period, because of course you want to reward your community as much as possible, but you have to find this balance between how you distribute all these rewards, how much I'm distributing at the very initial part of my project, and how can I compensate that with the organic demand that I'm going to be able to generate, right? So you need to ponderate these two parts before the flywheel has started to iterate properly, and you have already a robust economy. And that's why we need all this stress testing. Actually, if you don't mind, I will share my screen now, and I can show you how we do all the simulation and how we make sure that from a quantitative analysis perspective, we come up with these numbers, right? So at Space on Tokens, what we do is basically we mix three things into our simulations, which are, in our opinion, the key important parts of token economy, which is, first of all, your design, your token design, which is how the token is going to flow, who's generating certain demand, how that demand is distributed among the different stakeholders of the project, and of course, what's the selling pressure that we are generating at the same time, right? So that's one of the pieces, the design. The other piece is the vesting schedule, which is all the promises that we have made, all the dilution that the project is gonna have in the future, and all the selling pressure is coming from that part. So that's why we want to make sure that that's properly made. And then the third one is the demand of our values propositions, and the demand that it is going to be capturing all this value for the token and balancing the promises that we have made, right? So what we do in our simulations is basically we put all of those three things in what it is called an agent-based simulation. And in this simulation, everybody acts based on certain incentives, monetary incentive, obviously, and based on a logic perspective, right? So somebody is going to act in our token economy if they are going to perceive some value extracted from that action, either monetary, if they are, for example, stakers that want to get a specific yield out of their activity, or if they are users, the value that they are seeing in our economy. And we put all of that all together to analyze based on the different designs that we have in mind, all the different parameters, how much fees are we charging for a certain activity, how what's the percentage that goes towards burning, what's the percentage that goes towards staking. Based on all of that, we are able to generate different scenarios and calculate if the vesting schedule that we have in mind initially, for example, makes sense, if the valuation that we have makes sense, if the design that we have might have some failure scenarios that we are not able to see on a first step, and with this tool we're able to see it. And the way that it works is basically here on the left, we have what it is called the scenario builder, right? So with this scenario builder, we're able to put all the either growth scenarios that we have, the different fees that we are charging, all the value propositions that we expect to have. As Ignacio was saying, token economy that it is good is one that it is flexible, right? So if the product is changing, we need to put new value propositions on top of that. We need to generate new utilities to generate new demand, right? So we are able to do all of that here. For example, now we are counting on ads revenue, subscription, different bounties, and we also put other hypotheses of how the market is going to behave, right? So how aggressively our stakeholders are going to be selling, or what's the expected yield from our stakers. So we put all those hypotheses, we start with a simulation, and now we are able to analyze what's the end result from an organic point of view, all the time speaking. So we don't take into account speculation movements into the market. We always base our analysis from the fundamentals perspective of a business. And we're able to understand how everything is going to behave for that given scenario, right? All the token supply, what's the inflation going to look like, what's the revenue expected for the project, for the stakers of the project, and therefore how much is the demand of tokens that we will see from those stakers, and other metrics that are relevant to the project, such as the funds under management for the treasury, etc. Right? So once we have this scenario built, we're able to do this stress testing, A/B testing of different combinations of parameters of our vesting schedule, of how we are redistributing the airdrops, the seasonal airdrops, how much we are charging for each of the activities, and we are able to find this balance first on the first year when we perhaps don't have enough demand and we need to reward the ecosystem somehow, something differently, and then as well in the future to be able to forecast if the valuations that we have in mind make sense, and the project is robust.
Really good. I think what's interesting there as well is, you kind of touched on that, but one of the new things we brought in on here is a bit more clarity around the profit sharing and the value distribution. I think one of the things we've really tried with what you showed there, Alejandro, is to bring as much transparency, not only to the token, but also to the ecosystem and how we're building as Bondex and how we want to help users actually get some of that value by holding onto the BDXN token, by actually participating in the ecosystem. And I'd love to throw to yourself here, Ignacio, to maybe just unpack a bit more about this section of the tokenomics side, which is the profit sharing and value distribution, how you see this working, and maybe just unpack a bit of the vision.
Just on a vision basis, currently the way that the internet is structured is that you're using all these products and services that you think are free, but really the underlying economic force of it is your data. Your data is extremely valuable. It's more valuable than oil. And therefore, these companies are exploiting your data by providing you what you think is a free product and monetizing it without really sharing those revenues with you. So at a high level, what we're proposing is the real promise of Web3, which is the restructuring of the economic equation of the internet, by which the users get to choose if and how their data is monetized, what type of advertisements are they subject to, and then we share that revenue with the user, essentially. That's really, in a simplified way, the core of it, right? So empowering the user to choose if and how their data is monetized. And number two is splitting that pie with them, sharing some of that economic equation with them. I believe that will restructure the internet what we have today and enter into that third generation or iteration of the internet and deliver on the promise of Web3. And we're at the very forefront of it.
Really cool, really cool. I'm just going to load this up again as well. It's actually quite hard to see. Let me just make this full screen. Doesn't make them that much bigger, but yeah, you can see there's a lot of those revenues kind of coming in, a lot of those profits coming in, how they'll split up. Would really want to encourage anybody who is looking at BDXN, anybody who's looking at Bondex as an ecosystem, to dive through, because this is a super interesting part of the project for us. And like Ignacio said, we want to build a network that looks different to what users are seeing right now on the web. And we believe that actually by giving users upside and allowing them to actually partake in some of the value that they create is going to be a really important value. So it's great to see there. I actually want to dive back a second here, Ignacio. I want to go into, essentially, our stats show that this is the most viewed page on the tokenomics. And it's really around, okay, what are the tokenomics? What have been some of the changes? But would love you to maybe just put a bit more color around some of the changes that we've made, and the reasons as to why we've made those as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna speak very plainly, but I think what people have realized, especially the retail, is that some tokenomics have been designed to end up in which the retail ends up being the exit liquidity for people, right? And that's not really fair. We don't believe in that approach. We believe that
what that is first, just the exit liquidity.
So what that means is that, like, if you're basically a big VC-backed project and you have a massive, super high valuation that you've kind of done privately, a lot of times the product or service is not really actually delivering or a service or solving a real problem at scale. It's all kind of incentive driven, but then they have this big valuation because, VCs has said it has certain value. Then the exchanges pin that value at that point, and then they release it on exchanges. Now the price discovery happens, and during that volume, the projects are able to print or liquidate a large treasury because there's a lot of volume. But ultimately, the retail investors are getting in really late and they're not getting a good upside on their investment. I don't believe in that. I believe that the whole point of tokenization in Web3 is for people to be able to access earlier stage investments, right? So let me unpack that for 1 second. Let's say that SpaceX is about to IPO, right? When you buy the SpaceX stock in an IPO, you're kind of buying the Elon Musk exit liquidity in a way, right? Which fair enough. And the VC investor that invested in early is going to get all of that upside when that becomes liquid. What Web3 enables is that you can invest in an earlier version of what SpaceX is, and then it becomes liquid much, much sooner. It also comes with a lot of other risk, and there's pros and cons, but that's what I want to enable. Is not, hey, we're worth $1 billion. No, actually, let's start with a reasonable valuation, allow people to have an amazing amount of upside, and generate wealth effects for everyone involved, all the stakeholders, the users, the people that buy the token, our community, the KOLs who have invested. The idea is that everyone should be able to have a decent amount of upside.
Really good. Really good. And I think there's definitely some changes. There's specific breakdown for any community members who are looking to see actually what are the exact changes that have been made from version 1 to version 2. We want to be super transparent with everything we've done there. And as Ignacio and Alejandro have shared, the design of that is really important, and it's been thoroughly stress tested and A/B tested to make sure that upon launch that we're not essentially providing exit liquidity. And that's the worst thing we see that with other projects, and that's not what we want to do here.
We want to be fair, and we want to provide people, upside, and that's the idea there. That's why we've gone through the trouble, and thank you to Space and Time as well to support us into modeling this out and testing this out with the scenarios to see what is sustainable. And that's what's giving us an idea of what can we unlock, what are the vestings, and ultimately we want to reward people for their patience, for us taking a long time to build a real world product and company, and ultimately in a sustainable way. It doesn't, we're long-term people playing long-term games. A pump and dump helps absolutely no one. We're here for the long term, and for that we need to design incentives for longevity, and that's what we're working here.
Yeah, really good. I think I've just seen a couple of questions come through, and they actually line nicely up to my next section. So we've got first question here: will bond points be used to calculate BDXN airdrop allocation? From Cage on X. And then we've got this one: will bond points be used to? Oh, it's the same question. They've just copied and pasted. Didn't even see that. So I think that brings us nicely actually to the section of the tokenomics, which I had the most fun trying to understand. I'll be honest with you, I found it hard because it's very mathematical. And this is this section here around calculating user rewards and seasonal airdrops. And I just would love to maybe start a big picture here. And Alejandro, could you just tell me, big picture, what is this section about and what is it trying to achieve?
Yeah, so this section is just telling us how the airdrop, the seasonal airdrops are going to be distributed, right? And TLDR is basically, we're putting a lot of effort on rewarding the users of the platform, because part of the Bondex ecosystem is the value that these users are bringing, right? And when they are engaging in, as Spencer was saying, the right kind of actions and bringing us this network value that all this Web3 LinkedIn would have. So we are rewarding this part of the community, and at the same time, we are putting a lot of effort into rewarding the current token holders or stakeholders of it, right? So the whole thing is how we split the rewards between those two. Currently, what we have is 20% of the airdrop, the seasonal airdrops would go to the bond points holders, and the 80% would go to the token. 80% would go to the token holders, And then it's a matter of how we calibrate among each of those groups, right? So that the ones that have more bond points on one side will receive more, and the ones that have more tokens on the other will be fairly distributed, right?
Really good. And maybe Spencer, if you want to try to jump in there in terms of how have we approached this previously, what do you think in terms of how we're about to kind of the transparency that we maybe brought here about future airdrops?
Yeah, so far we've completed one airdrop season. And so those claims would begin at TGE with the 12-month vesting period that we've managed to reduce from the 20. Season 2 requirements have not officially been announced, but you can expect that they're going to include the leveraging of new features around minting a Bondex ID and potentially holding BDXN or other tasks. So at the moment, after fulfilling airdrop requirements, bond points help determine your share of rewards, right? So the more you've earned through engagement activity, the higher your potential allocation would be when airdrops happen. And so for airdrop season 1, that snapshot has already been taken. So all those values are already locked in. So bond points are not convertible to BDXN, but they play a role in your overall reward and the overall reward system. So once we launch the token, as the platform evolves with that, rewards will gradually shift to a more long-term model where benefits will be more directly tied to BDXN token holders, right? So like Alejandro said, kind of a 80-20 split where 80% of the rewards are more geared towards those long-term kind of holders of our token. So this means that bond points will continue to always play an important role in the platform for engagement and participation. And then holding and staking BDXN will play a larger role in unlocking benefits and governance of future rewards, right? And so the reason behind this is because we want to create a sustainable and decentralized economy. So the BDXN token is the core of that ecosystem, and rewarding those holders, we ensure the people that are most invested in the platform's success have the most influence and the most benefits. So that's kind of how we see that moving forward.
You want to jump on that there, Ignacio? Because I think there's another page. I'm going to load it up here. It's actually back on the token allocation vesting. We've got this section here. It says ecosystem rewards pool, and Alejandro, you really helped us a lot more on here. Actually putting specific numbers on here and saying actually what's sustainable. And Ignacio, in conversations we've had, I know that you've shared about building differently, not just a one-off airdrop, but actually building an ecosystem that continuously rewards. And we've actually been able to design that more intricately here with space and tokens. But Ignacio, just want to maybe add a bit more color onto that, a bit more of your perspective as to the design of the ecosystem rewards pool.
Absolutely. So I think that airdrops, some have been done well, some have been done not so well, but ultimately what the entire space has seen is that it's resulted in some bad behaviors, farmers, civils, people trying to get money, but that really distracts and it does not help companies achieve product market fit and sustainable revenue generating products and services, right? So we don't want to build a rewards mechanism that caters to those type of behaviors. Instead, we want something that is sustainable, that actually creates a positive flywheel between the revenue that is generated, the loyalty of the user, the engagement of the user, and the value that he receives, right? That's what we're trying to enable here. So the idea is, and we're social, decentralized social play, right? And we're, grabbing a playbook from some of the Web2, legendary companies. If you look at Facebook, for example, for a long time, all they focused on was engagement and traction. One day they turned on revenues, and it was about 30 million ARR that they turned, right? Our plan would be for us to have network effects because we're providing you with really great social features and a social network, achieve critical mass. One day we turn on advertising, for example, in a Web3 native way, in which users are empowered to choose if and how their data is monetized and get a revenue share from it, right? But once there's again, volume, and then that ecosystem rewards pool gets replenished, and so everyone always gets rewarded from that revenue. So what that means is, in a way, it's a meritocracy, right? But it's a connection between the product and service and the user that doesn't exist today. It means that the revenue is from something that is extremely valuable, your data, your preferences, advertising. That's what makes the internet incredibly valuable today. But all of that essentially will have a little revenue stream that will then be rewarded to the users via the ecosystem rewards pool.
Really good. Yeah, really good. And nobody wants to be part of an ecosystem that is just dumping all its tokens straight away in an airdrop. So I love that this is a sustainable way, building an ecosystem that rewards users continuously. And yeah, I love that we've actually added more transparency here as a project around how that's calculated, around what the levers are that we're looking at when it comes to season 2, 3, and beyond. So what I'd love to do now, actually, is in the last kind of couple of minutes we've got left, is just to kind of touch on what's coming up, what's coming next for us as Bondex. And we've had a lot of talk about TGE. And Ignacio, I don't know if you just want to kind of share a couple of maybe kind of where we're at with TGE.
So TGE, it's not been a great week for us in the crypto markets, that's for sure. As long everyone here in crypto can feel it. I would not sure. I hope it's not, but it could be a mini bear market. But essentially, we're absolutely ready to go to TGE. The gatekeepers, which are the centralized exchanges that are tier 1, are telling us the moment where you're of the highest priority, we're going to give you a slot when the market conditions are right. So that's really what we're waiting for. If the market was pumping right now, I think we would have a really good shot at going out immediately. However, it's not dependent on us. We're just waiting to get that slot on the right venue. And for that, we need the market window to open. Now we're absolutely beyond ready. We're just, we need everyone cross our fingers, pray to the crypto gods, and for the macroeconomic trends to get a little bit better, for the market to improve, and for us to go to market.
Love it. And Spencer, what's coming out in terms of roadmap? What can users expect to see in the short term and maybe a bit more long term?
Yeah, so we've got, obviously, with the reputation and the new Bondex profiles, people really have the ability to kind of build their ultimate profile, right? It's got all their verified socials. They can have any of their, they can post about, they can create projects. It shows their NFTs, any personal links that they want to have on there. It's their one-stop shop to be able to have this profile already. I think the next things that we're looking at is now that a lot of users have been doing this kind of on their own. They've been collecting their bond points, building their profiles and reputation. And the next is really to start to open that up in terms of them being able to discover other users on the platform, for companies and talent to be able to kind of see the talent pool as well. So these are some of the things that we are going to be looking at in the near future, to really start to see the use of the reputation within this kind of this social network. And so I think what people don't see is that we do have millions of users, and all the actual activity that's happening around people doing these verifications, minting their Bondex IDs, achieving these trusted levels and things like that. So we really want to start to share that so that people can actually see these things that are happening on the platform. They can explore some of the other people and other users on the platform, and start to build those connections with trusted people in the Web3 and crypto space.
Amazing. I mean, so much coming up. And guys, that's really the end of our time here today. Big shout out there, Alejandro, to yourself. Thank you for joining us, as helping us walk through our tokenomics. And we've really loved having Space and Tokens help us in creating the most robust tokenomics yet for Bondex. And we love now that we've got the most transparent tokenomics. Well, one of the most transparent I've seen on across all projects. So I really want to thank you for your help there. And Spencer and Ignacio or Alejandro, is there anything else any of you guys want to share or say as we wrap up?
Just one thing, as you know, the market is not looking great, but I think that it's actually good. Memes took a lot of mind share out of people, but I think everyone realized that it's not sustainable. Getting rich quick is not sustainable. It's not a sustainable model. Things should not be going that fast. Things that are really worth it and valuable take time. And to that end, what you want to build is real product that solves real problems and have a positive impact. And that's what we're about here at Bondex. And I believe that because we're building that way and thinking that way, it's really going to pay off. And in a world where there's a lot of noise and a lot of misinformation and you don't know what is real, especially in crypto when it comes to projects, being a project that is buttoned up, very serious, real world use case is going to pay off. And we're very, very, very close to having our debut. So I'm very excited. I'm not scared about any conditions because I'm very, very confident in the fundamentals of the project that we've built and we're building.
Love it. Lovely. Well, we will end on that note. Guys, thank you all very much for your time. And I'm sure we'll be back soon for another community AMA. And Alejandro, thank you once again. And guys, we'll see you all again soon.